leather is still a thing, and there's a lot of holsters out there that are leather, and you shouldn't feel less of a high-speed tactical operator Delta Ninja because you choose leather. So this is kind of a loaded question, but Roy, why do you choose leather?
You know, I'm old enough to go all the way back before plastic holsters. I do remember Packmeyer introduced a plastic holster. This was probably in the 70s, early 70s, and it was more of an injection molded, like the rubber grips on Packmeyer grips. It was kind of made out of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was terrible, and we all laughed at it, and it was sweaty, and it was uncomfortable, and and it died a natural death. And but then, of course, later on, Blade Tech, Tim Wagner at Blade Tech was basically, I think, the first guy to really cross over and say, "I'm going to make this out of Kydex." And in those days, they did one at a time by hand. I remember he actually used an etching pen to inscribe on the back of the holster, Blade Tech fits a Browning high power, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? I tried them, and I found that they worked okay as like a range holster, like an outside scabbard range holster.
Exactly.
Something like that. They worked out pretty good. They were easy. They wore the finish on your gun quite a bit because the dust inside it, and you slide your whole gun in and out. It would like kind of grind on it. But so yeah, I think they have their place as it evolved, and I saw more like pocket holsters, inside the waistband holsters, appendix carry holsters. I've tried them all, and for whatever reason, it's some genetic trait of mine. They're just terribly uncomfortable to me. They poke and prod, so I've never really been a fan of them. I understand their value. I understand that many people like them. I support them. I've written up many Kydex holsters over the years. I want that side of the industry to grow. But for me personally, leather holsters seem to be more comfortable. And as you say, they just have a little more soul. When I have my favorite custom 1911 in a beautiful, Mitch Rosen leather holster, it's like the world's a good place.
Yeah. I'm going to use that as a pull quote in something because it's absolutely true. And, that was one of the points I'd kind of jotted down, that the heritage and tradition, and there's nothing wrong with heritage and tradition so long as it doesn't impede you in any way. And when we're talking leather holsters, as long as it's a good quality leather holster, it's not impeding you. And in a lot of instances, it's actually helping you. So that's what we wanted to talk about.
And it's interesting. I have seen, because there are diehard leather holster people. I've had this holster for 25 years, right? Well, that's a really bad idea because holsters wear out.
Exactly.
And I remember there was a guy who had a Glock and a leather holster. He sat down in his car, the Glock went off. Right?
Yeah.
Well, then he analyzed it and he realized, and he showed a picture of the holster. This thing should have been thrown away 10 years before. The seams were like falling apart, and stuff like that. And so it wasn't a holster malfunction. It was an owner malfunction. And people say, oh, well, Kydex, that doesn't wear out like leather. Well, au contraire, it does, and it can crack and it can chip. And where the screws go through can crack, the rubber bumpers will dry out, and so all this stuff has a shelf life. It really does. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because we all have a box of holsters.
Exactly. So, the island of misfit holsters.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this short preview of the latest episode of the Guns Podcast US, brought to you by gunsmagazine.com. If you want to check out the entire episode, you can do that by going to gunsmagazine.com or your favorite podcast directory or YouTube. While you're online, make sure you do stop by gunsmagazine.com and read the latest stories from your favorite gun writers. Make sure you check out Guns Podcast US, gunsmagazine.com, and as I always say at the end of every episode, now get out there and get shooting.